All right, ladies and gentlemen, and we are here, and it is Wednesday, and you know what that means. Time to dive deeper into the lost wisdom of the pharaohs and the Corpus Hermeticum, the divine Pymander original manuscript, Hermes Trismegistus, 3rd century AD, the new edition edited by Tarl Warwick. The reason I always say the lost wisdom of the pharaohs is because we began this journey with the Hermetica, with the symbol of Thoth there, the Egyptian sage god. Later became Hermes Trismegistus in the Greek, thrice greatest Hermes, a combination of the Egyptian Thoth and Greek Hermes. And this philosophy, this teaching, is a introduction to the intersection of the Egyptian and the Hellenic cultures and the magico-religious ideas of the antique world. It's an essential and illuminating topic for anybody interested in understanding the West's roots, and really, I would say, a lot of roots into esoteric thought. Specifically in this study, Egyptian esoteric. But as we know, it goes many directions. Ladies and gentlemen, because as you can see, we are already most of the way through the Corpus Hermeticum. And we find ourselves today continuing with book number 13, which was entitled Of Sense and Understanding. I think last time we made it to, I think, line number 20 with all my ramblings. And so let's start at about line 15 and see where the mind takes us. Because remember, ladies and gentlemen, we are here to seek to achieve and maintain happiness through enlightenment, through a greater awareness and understanding of the nature of reality, so that through that awareness we can increase the quality of our lives. And as well, hopefully have some fun on the way, because each one of these is very deep, very fascinating, very profound, amazing, and fun and enjoyable. So thank you for being here. Hopefully you're comfy, and let us get started, ladies and gentlemen. Line number 15. And the seeds of God are few, but great and fair, and good, virtue, and temperance, and piety. And piety is the knowledge of God. This begins line number 16, but as I always say, I'm not going to say each number of every line because most of them are just a sentence, some a couple sentences, so that might get to be too much. However, we'll see where I say that here and there. Number 16, and the piety is the knowledge of God, whereby whosoever knows, being full of all good things, has divine understanding, and not like the multitude, not like the masses. You become different than everybody with this knowledge of God, with divine understanding. Continuing now. And therefore they that have that knowledge neither please the multitude, nor the multitude them, but they seem to be mad, and to move laughter, hated and despised, and many times also murdered. Now this makes me think of, the how you if you're going to be a real spiritual or a this kind of person like a guru or whatever, you don't really fit in with normal society. And often people will say, you're crazy. And then it gets even further, as was described there. But let us continue. Line number 18, for we have already said that wickedness must dwell here, being in her own region. For her region is the earth, and not the world, as some will sometimes say, blaspheming. But the godly man, laying hold on knowledge, will despise all these things, for though they be evil to other men, yet to him all things are good. 21. And upon mature consideration, he refers all things to knowledge, and that which is most to be wondered at, he alone makes evil things good. Now that's a true power there. That's a true power there. I mean, I remember reading something, and it was about masters. And when they confronted their enemies, the greatest level of mastery was to not draw your weapon, but through communication, not only stop the anger of both yourself and the enemy, but when oftentimes you can do that, then turn them to a friend. Now, this was the Jedi's. And you could see how that could be a fanciful thing, or, like a fanciful idea. However, this is what I was thinking of when I read this line. And that which is most to be wondered at, he alone makes evil good. Because upon mature consideration, he referred all things to knowledge, to wisdom, to understanding, rather than emotion and anger and, the ego nature, the ego side of ourselves, as we talked about yesterday. And that which is most to be wondered at, he alone makes evil things good, turns it around, turns the darkness into the light. I added those last two lines. Number 22. But I return again to my discourse of sense. And this was where we left off last week, because he begins this talking about sense and understanding, and how sense is united into nature, but into men, understanding. But the mind differs from understanding as much as God from divinity. And it continued on explaining to us, for neither it is possible without sense to understand, nor can we have sense without understanding. But then he talked about dreams and how you can bring forth something, parts of the sense connected with another, then is the understanding brought forth by the mind pronounced. Now, he returns because then he got off on a tangent, talking about good and evil, which we just finished up in line number 22. But I again return to my discourse of sense. It is, therefore, a thing proper to man to communicate and to conjoin sense and understanding. But every man, as I said before, does not enjoy understanding. Isn't this the truth? For one man is material, another is essential. Now, that word essential makes me think of essence, or a source, or a spiritual foundation. So for one man is material and another is coming from source, or the essence, or is spiritual in a sense. 25. And he that is material with wickedness, as I said, received from the devils the seed of understanding. But they that are the good, essentially, listen to God. Now my mind immediately says, what does this mean, Thoth? Hermes, what do you mean received from the devils the seed of understanding? What would be the difference of this seed of understanding versus listening to God and gaining an understanding? Do you get a different kind of understanding? But we have to remember these words, like God and devils, do not take on the Christian stereotypical understanding that most of us immediately have popping into our head, because this wisdom is from far older times, before the foundations of early Christianity. And I believe this wisdom even comes from a time before Egypt and the Sumerians, all the way back to the previous Golden Age, and this is the remnants of this wisdom of the ages, or this knowledge of the things that are. But I return again to my discourse of sense. Trismegistus says, for God, this is the next line, for God is the workman of all things, and when he works, he uses nature. Most important to remember there, because this is how the Tao Te Ching often references, this attempt to understand God or the Tao is through nature. And also the kahunas use this understanding of flowing like water, which is also a very natural understanding. And so God is the workman of all things, and when he works, he uses nature. He makes all things good like himself, but these things that are made good are in the use of operation unlawful. For the motion of the world, stirring up generations, makes qualities, infesting some with wickedness and purifying some with good. See, this is also reminding me to what I learned from Wayne Dyer a couple weeks ago, talking about good and evil, and someone asked him, how do you feel about good and evil, Dr. Dyer? And he said, well, I don't really believe in good and evil, because I believe we are all part of one energy source or field or God, whatever you want to call it, name unimportant. We are all a part of this thing, and we are either a balanced energy or an unbalanced energy. Or the way that he put it, which I really like this understanding, is we are either moving away from source or we are moving towards source. That which we are already a part of, but we are either harmonizing or deharmonizing. And that was similar to what I heard there. For the motion of the world, stirring up generations, which was talked about before, that's like the creation, and then it makes qualities, so the variance in the creation. Some of it gets wickedness, some of it moves away from source, and some purified with good, some moves towards source. For the motions of the world, and the world, Asclepius, Asclepius, he's always preaching to Asclepius. And then Asclepius is always like, but what does this mean, O Thoth? Because that's how we all really feel during most of this. As I always say, if you're getting all of this, then you're probably not getting a whole lot. And if you're not getting very much of this, then you're probably getting a whole lot. That's the paradoxical nature of the wisdom of the ages. And the world, Asclepius, contains a peculiar sense and understanding. So we're learning that reality contains these dualities, the positive and the negative, the light and the dark, the good and the evil, so to speak, or the wicked and the pure, or the understanding and the sense. For the sense, and it contains a peculiar sense and understanding, he says, not like to man's, nor so various or manifold, but a better and more simple sense and understanding. For the sense and understanding of the world is one. It always comes back to this oneness that is the cause of the two-ness or the duality, the divided, the separate, but it comes from a oneness. This is seen in the yin and yang symbol, where it is all one circle, but we have two opposite sides with a little bit of each other in the other. For the sense and understanding of the world is one in that it makes all things and unmakes them again into itself, for it is the instrument of the will of God. 32. And it is so organized and made before an instrument by God, that receiving all seeds into itself from God, and keeping them in itself. There's a very deep part here. You could make like a whole diagram on how these last few lines are actually functioning in reality and how it makes sense. Eventually, I do want to go through and make a bunch of diagrams about all this, because you could do the same thing with the Hermetica too, and I'm betting the Kabbalion and much more of this excellent, excellent classic spiritual philosophy. the wisdom of the ages. And it is so organized and made for an instrument by God that receiving all seeds into itself from God and keeping them in itself, it makes all things effectually, and dissolving them renews all things. And therefore, like a good husband of life, not wife, but life, when things are dissolved or loosened, he affords, by the casting of seed, renovation to all things that grow. Now that was kind of a graphic metaphor there, but I guess the ultimate example. I'll continue without repeating that line. You can go back and re-listen if you want to get that deeper. 34. There is nothing that it does not bring forth alive, and by its motion it makes all things alive. And it is at once both the place and the workman of life. It is at once both the place and the workman of it. Remember, there was in a previous one, he was talking to his son Tot. I believe it was a couple ago, of the Common Mind to TAT. And he was talking about this idea there that everything is alive. And Tot was like, well, but wait a second. Like, what of the things that are not alive? How are they alive? Like, how does this make sense? Once again, it's always like, come on, Trismegistus, explain this to me better because it's so paradoxical. It's like, yeah, everything's alive. But even though you look out at reality and you see tables and chairs and water pitchers was the example that Todd used. I'm gonna see if I can find it. But he was like, no, you're not getting it. He was like, it is the essence or the soul in the thing that gives it life, not the motion, so far as we think of life. And he used a water pitcher as example and said, is there not seeing all things? But he talked about the space. And he goes, is the water pitcher useful? Is the vessel useful without the space in between? And then he described as that space being of an ultimate importance. He described it as similar to life. I wish I could find that real quick because that was a great little bit. However, let us continue. Bodies are different in a manner from the matter, but it doesn't mean all things don't have life. Therefore, there is nothing that it does not bring forth alive, and by its motion it makes all things alive. See, by its motion. So by the function of reality, all things kind of have a life or purpose to them. But then he got into the difference of spirit. Not all things have spirit. However, both, he goes in at once, both at once, God is the place and the workman of life. But the bodies are from matter, in a different manner, for some are of earth, some are of water, some are of air. See, the life in the air is would seem to us to be invisible. Some are in air, some of fire, and some are all compounded. But some are more compounded, and some are more simple. They that are compounded are the heavier, and they that are less, the higher. Not the lighter, but the higher. And the swiftness of the motion of the world makes the varieties of the qualities of generation, for the inspiration of influence being the most frequent, extends unto the bodies qualities with satiation, which is of life. Therefore, God is the Father of the world, but the world is the father of the things in the world. See, I think this is important for people who get caught up in the whole father thing. Oh, Heavenly Father, it's like, but we are also the father of the things in the world here. And, we got to get away from this separateness idea. Oh, whatever I am separate from, here are my tokens. P1, I'd like a soda. This isn't how God works, and this isn't what God is at all. We are a part of it. That's why I think it's important that it points out there that we are also doing these things. God is the father of the world, but the world is father of the things in the world, and the world is the son of God, but the things in the world are the sons of the world. Therefore, it is well called the world, that is, an ornament, because it adorns and beautifies all things with the variety of generation, the variety of creation, and its limitless power of life, with the tirelessness of operation, the swiftness of necessity, with the mingling of the elements and the order of things done. That pretty much describes the functioning of reality there. And there's these important words. I'll read that again and point them out. Because it adorns and beautifies all things with the variety of, important word, generation. And the limitless power of, important word, life. With the tirelessness of, important word, operation. So we have generation, life, operation. How does that which is generated with this essence of life operate? And the swiftness of, important word, necessity. So we have the generation, life, operation through necessity with the mingling of, important word, elements. We have generation, life, through operation, necessity, with the elements and the order, or the law of things done. Therefore, O Asclepius, it is necessary and properly called the world. For in all living things, both the sense and the understanding comes into them from without, inspired by that which surrounds them and provides for them. That was a beautiful line. And the world, receiving it once from God as soon as it was made, has it still wherever it once had. So don't think that, oh, we received this long time ago and it's been lost. God abandoned us. And he'll be back in a few thousand centuries. This is not the case. Coming to us from thrice greatest, the Egyptian sage god. I love that 43 there. For in all living things, both the sense and the understanding comes into them from without, inspired. And this is what we should be all the time, ladies and gentlemen. This is how I do these videos here. I don't know what's going to come to mind. On Tuesdays, I don't really know if I'm going to read the Tao or Wisdom of David R. Hawkins, and I don't know what I'm going to read. I'm just going to go through whatever we're inspired to go through. And I'll stop when I'm inspired to do so. But inspired by that which surrounds us and provides for us. And the world, receiving it once from God, as soon as it was made, has it still as much whatever it once had. 45. 45 out of 55. So let's see if we can get to the end of this today and stay on topic. I haven't rambled too much today, and I'm impressed with that. 45. But God is not as it seems to some who blaspheme through superstition, without sense and without mind or understanding. For all things that are, O Asclepius, are in God and made by him. So there it is again. Like, if you're thinking that you are separate from it, Even though maybe we were made by it, that kind of gives the idea of separation. But remember, paradoxes, two things at the same time that seem like they can't coexist. In other words, there is life in the things that are not animate. That was the difference that Trismegistus made. He said some things are animate, but all things have life. Do not mix up the words, Tot. Tot asked. He said, "What do you mean, O Father?" "Because it is impossible, O Son, to be conversant about things mortal and divine." These things being so, O Tot, things that have been are so plenteous in being ministered to us from God, let them proceed also from us, without any scarcity or sparing. Despise all things bodily and tangible. Thus, O Tot, is the knowledge of the mind, the beholding of the divine things, and understanding of God, the cup itself, being divine. Very, very deep. I'm just trying to find that part again. It was so good, and I feel like it will connect. But that's all right. We are on of sense and understanding. But itself, unity, therefore, being the beginning, contains. Okay. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. 47. Nope, 46. For all things that are, O Asclepius, are in God, and made by him, independent of him. So we are in it, but we are also made by it. This is, like I said, it is the place, but also the workman at the same time. Independent of it, some working by bodies and some moving by soul. Like essence, some quickening by a spirit, and some receiving the things that are wary, and all very fitly. Or rather, I say that he has them not, but I declare the truth. He is all things, not receiving them from without, but exhibiting them outwardly. And this is the sense and understanding of God, to move all things always. This reminds me of I think it's a Zen quote, and it's like, you are not doing anything, but rather you are being done. So when you go about your life, feeling the thoughts of struggle, like, I need to work harder to do this better. Like, you are not doing anything. You are being done. So why don't you flow with it, and maybe it will work a lot easier? Just a suggestion. I don't know. I don't know. Rather I say that he that has them not, but I declare the truth, he is all things, not receiving them from without, but exhibiting them outwardly. And this is the sense and understanding of God. That's what I will title this video. Hopefully that works. The sense and understanding of God. And to move all things always. You are being moved by God. There shall never be any time when any of these things that are shall fail or be wanting. You have failed and have been found wanting. Nope, not this case. None of these things that are at any time ever. And he's talking about everything, ever. None of all the things that are. Remember, he said in the very beginning of this book, go all the way back here to, sorry, trash is going on in the background. Hopefully it's not too loud. To Hermes Trismegistus, his first book. And if you can see there, in number 2, he says, for there can be no religion more true or just than to know the things that are and to acknowledge thanks for all things to him that have made them, which thing we shall not cease continually to do, ladies and gentlemen. But simply, there can be no religion more true or just, I forgot our spot, than to simply know the things that are. His creator Harmonis, and one more page. There we go. So, of all the things that are, shall never fail, and never be found wanting. 50. When I say the things that are, see, I explained it for us, but he explains it better. He says, when I say the things that are, I mean God. For the things that are, God is, and neither is there anything without him, nor he without anything. So let me read that one again, because this is good. This is awesome. This is profound, and I know you're getting value from this, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here so much. And if you haven't subscribed already, be sure to smash the subscribe button. I mean, for the things that are, God is. When I say the things that are, I mean God. And neither is there anything without God, nor it without anything. 51. These things, O Asclepius, will appear to be true if you understand them. But if you understand them not, they will seem incredible. And I'll add, hard to believe and mysterious and silly, and for those who just want to be mystical spiritual guys like myself. However, if you are here watching this video, then pat yourself on the back, because you are part of the 1%ers, part of the spiritual revolution that is taking place. That'll be the greatest revolution we have seen since the discovery of fire. I don't know. That's just a weird comparison there. But we are the 1%ers, ladies and gentlemen. Not saying that we all understand. But these things that have been explained in this today's video, or in this text, in this philosophy, in this series, these things, O Asclepius, O audience, will appear to be true if we understand them, but if we understand them not, they will seem incredible. For to understand is to believe, but not to believe is not to understand. So if we believe them, ladies and gentlemen, very deep. For my speech or words reach not unto the truth, but the mind is great, and being led or conducted for a while by speech, is able to attain the truth. And hopefully that's what we are doing here. And understanding all things round about, and finding them consonant and agreeable to those things that are delivered, and interrupted by speech, believe, and in that good belief rest. To them, therefore, that understand the things that have been said of God, they are credible. But to them that understand them not, they are incredible. And finally, the last line of book number 13 of the Corpus Hermeticum. And let these, and thus many things, be spoken concerning understanding and sense. And let these and thus many things be spoken concerning understanding and sense. Powerful, ladies and gentlemen. Powerful. God is not as it seems to those who would not try to comprehend or have an open mind, or as some would describe it, believe in this. But to those that do not find it incredible, without credibility, but rather we find it very credible. Rather, we find it very credible. I feel it important to read those last few lines quickly again. These things, O Asclepius, will appear to be true if you understand them. But if you understand them not, they will seem incredible. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, as we will always reference before we finish up here today, and this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for being here. The beginning of the Hermetica, the very first, after the history and the introduction of the Hermetica, which is my favorite part. We'll go back through that again sometime because that was very fun. We come to chapter 1, the prophecies of Hermes. And in this chapter, Hermes describes the nature of pure philosophy, but laments that in future generations it will be all but lost. But he reminds us in the very first words of the prophecies of Hermes, he says, pure philosophy is a spiritual striving through constant contemplation. That means a constant meditation, constant ponderation, a constant rumination, a constant thinking about. A pure philosophy is spiritual striving through constant contemplation to attain true knowledge of Atum, the one God, or as described in the beginning of the Corpus Hermeticum, the knowledge of the things that are. As was described here, when I say the things that are, I mean God. And that's the words of Hermes Trismegistus. For the things that are, God is, and neither is there anything without God. So these things, O Asclepius, remember your constant contemplation, will appear to be true if you understand them. But if not, they will seem incredible. For to understand is to believe, and not to believe is not to understand. For my speech or words reach not unto the truth, but the mind, remember that's the contemplation, the meditation, is great, and being led or conducted for a while by speech is able to attain the truth. And understanding all things round about, and finding them consonant and agreeable to those things that were delivered, and interrupted by speech, believe, and in that good belief rest. To them, therefore, that understand the things that have been said of God, they are credible. But to them that have understood them not, incredible. And let these and thus many things be spoken, O Asclepius, concerning understanding and sense. And that was, ladies and gentlemen, a boom to the sense and understanding of God. From chapter 13, or book number 13 of the Corpus Hermeticum. And next chapter is called of operation and sense, rather than understanding and sense. And then after that is of truth to his son Thoth. He's finally going to tell him the truth? No. We're joking, ladies and gentlemen. We're getting there. Getting there. This has been wonderful, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. I love and appreciate each and every one of you that spends time here with me. Remember, seek to achieve and maintain happiness through enlightenment. Seek to discover the lost wisdom of the ages and the hidden mysteries of our history. And remember, there is no way to happiness or enlightenment because it is the way. It is what we must bring to life. And by creating that ability within ourselves to bring happiness, enlightenment, awareness to life, then all those things we'll be telling ourselves, oh, when I get there, I'll be enlightened, or when I finally have this much, I'll be happy. That becomes irrelevant because then we already are there. And hopefully the entire journey is wonderful. Thank you so much. Be sure to expand the description. I love and appreciate all of you that spend time here with me in the premieres and in these replays later on the channel. I have so much fun looking through the comments, so be sure to leave your thoughts below. And as well, there's a link below this video in the more box down there. You just hit more, and that expands, and you hit it again, it expands it. They made it real difficult. You should just sit there and you scroll down. It's like, sweet, here's all the links. However, it is still there. And you have a link to this book so you can get it for yourself, to put it on your shelf so you can follow along in the future in this series, or just have it for reference for yourself as well. A link to C60 Purple Power, the most powerful antioxidant known to man. Give yourself the gift of health as well. A link to my Etsy shop and my landscape paintings. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, be the change that you want to see. Be the example that you want to set.